Minutes after 7, so I'm going to go ahead and begin. Some others may join us along the way here. Welcome to this session on the Pre-Health Studies program at Richmond for incoming spiders. My name is Dr. Vaughan, and I'm a member of the biology department at Richmond. I coordinate the Pre-Health Studies program, and I'm excited to welcome you as new spiders and delighted to have the opportunity to share with you a little bit about the work that I do with the Pre-Health Studies program and how you can use it as a resource during your time at Richmond. I'll also have opportunity for you to ask questions. And since we're in a webinar format, the approach for doing that would be to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen on Zoom. I'll be kind of monitoring any questions as they come in through that box, and I will definitely do my best to answer any of those that come. There will be a formal orientation meeting for new pre-health students at the start of the fall semester. So my goal for tonight is simply to share some basic information with you on the program, as well as some important considerations as you prepare to register for fall classes. So let me just begin by talking a little bit about what the Pre-Health Studies program is. So essentially, you can think of it as a resource for pre-health students at Richmond. And by pre-health students, I'm referring to anyone who's pursuing a health profession career, such as medicine, dentistry, physical therapy, nursing, physician assistant, pharmacy. Basically, any kind of health professional career are the students who are served by this program. It does not matter what your ultimate academic major is. I think there's a perception that you have to be in the sciences if you're on a pre-health track, but that's certainly not true, especially at a school at Richmond. We have students who are in pretty much all the various departments and even schools on campus who are on a pre-health path. And so you're not locked into a particular major with this program. I would like to clarify a couple points of potential confusion here, though. The first is that pre-health studies in and of itself is not an academic major. So you can't declare a pre-health major when time comes your second year to make your major declaration. So the program is a resource only for students. Secondly, the university does have a health studies department that does offer a major as well as a minor. And sometimes this is confused with pre-health studies, partly because I helped to start the health studies department, and partly because a good number of pre-health students end up taking coursework in that department. But pre-health studies and health studies are really two separate entities, okay? By the way, since I mentioned the health studies program, if you're interested in learning more about that program, they have a really nice webpage that you can visit, and I would encourage you to look at that. The health studies curriculum covers important topics that most certainly impact the health professions, such as the healthcare delivery system in the United States, healthcare policy, healthcare economics, a lot of talk about public health within that curriculum. And the courses in that program are pretty interesting because not only do you have full-time faculty at Richmond who teach in it from several different departments, but there are also a good number of local healthcare professionals who teach in it as well. We have, I think, 4 different physicians who teach courses for us. We've had pharmacists teach for us, et cetera. So they bring in, that real world experience into the classroom, which is nice. Returning to the pre-health studies program, though, one of the main resources that it offers is pre-professional advising. And I am the Chief Health Professions Advisor on campus and begin working with students from the time they enter college, helping them plan out, their curricular and extracurricular activities that will keep them on track for their intended degree program or major, while also ensuring that they're prepared to be successful as an applicant to professional school later on. Then when the application time comes around, I help students navigate that process through a series of workshops and individual advising meetings where we address topics ranging from how to write personal statements for professional school to interviewing at professional schools, how to decide what schools ultimately to apply to, and then connecting current students with alumni at those programs even. So there's a lot of assistance that you get later on along the way with when the application process time rolls around, 3 or so years from now for you all. So perhaps the primary take-home message for you this evening is that although the pre-health path, I'm sure you've heard, is challenging and often comes with unanticipated twists and turns, I'm here to help you through this pre-health journey that you're going to be on, if that's ultimately the direction you go, and help you with navigating that process toward professional school. And I certainly look forward to meeting all of you who are interested in that path and working with you in the coming year. The other main item that I wanted to go over this evening before turning to some Q&A is to talk a little bit more about the first semester course schedule as you're preparing to get ready to register for those courses. And I'm going to do a share screen with a couple of PowerPoint slides for this, just to go over a few important things there. So bear with me a second while I do that. Okay, so hopefully you can see this slide here. So course registration is coming up next month, and you may be wondering, what you should take or not take as an incoming pre-health student. So I wanted to point out a few considerations on this front. First off, all of the pre-health tracks do require a good number of science courses, as I'm sure you probably are aware. So I do highly recommend that you take at least one science course in the upcoming fall semester, regardless of what major you're thinking about. And for most students, that course should be our introductory chemistry course, which is called Chemistry 141. And this one is usually the best starting point because the pre-health tracks require more chemistry than they do biology. And the chemistry courses do need to be taken in a particular sequence or order. So starting with chemistry is particularly important for students, it turns out, who might want to study abroad for a semester later on in their time at Richmond, just because of how the sequencing of these courses works. The main exceptions to taking Chem 141 in the fall are going to be students who are considering a physics major, in which case they would take our introductory physics course in the fall semester. Students who have chosen to participate in the SMART program, as we call it, in which case they take an integrated biology and chemistry combination course instead of the 141 chemistry. And then any students who have a weak science background coming in and would, because of that, prefer not to begin taking science until the spring semester to allow maybe an easier adjustment to college academics for their first semester. And the second point I wanted to make about the fall schedule is that if you're considering a biology or what we call a B&B major, that stands for biochemistry and molecular biology, then you might also consider taking our introductory biology course, which is Biology 199, along with the general chemistry course. And the exception here would be students, again, who are taking the SMART program, since they're already doing biology with chemistry in that integrated course, as well as students who may have significant extracurricular commitments like varsity athletics, or maybe something like the Bonner Scholars Program, where there's a lot of community service that's built into that as a requirement. Okay. There is a question in the Q&A that popped up regarding AP credit, so sit tight. That's where we're headed in just a little bit here. Okay. All right, so AP credit. In the event, that you do have AP credit, if you follow the Richmond New Spiders page, you'll see there's a chart that will list for you basically how the AP credit or IB credit translates into coursework at Richmond based on your high school work. I'm guessing that maybe some of you took AP or IB exams and are perhaps still awaiting your scores. There are some considerations for pre-health, though, that I want you to take into account here when you're thinking about the AP credit question and using that for Richmond courses. Okay. First off, it's always okay to use AP credit for biology courses, since that comes in as a non-majors course. The course that I mentioned a moment ago, the Biology 199, that's our starting point for the major. And the course you get credit for with AP or IB is not that course. It's one that is below that level, and it's for non-majors. Okay, so there's not going to be any issue, with using AP credit for biology. The same applies with calculus and any non-science courses that you might have credit for. Not going to be a problem using that credit in terms of thinking downstream with what professional schools require. Also, it's generally okay to use credit for physics courses if you have that. I have a parenthetical note there that there are some exceptions to that, in terms of what professional schools might have a problem with AP credit or IB credit for physics. So if you find that you're in that situation with the physics, I would recommend that you reach out to me individually later on so we can kind of assess that better, whether or not to use the AP physics or IB physics credits there. Okay. Okay. The situation is a little bit different for general chemistry that we mentioned earlier, the 141 course. It turns out that a good number of health professional schools do not accept credit for the AP or IB credit for general chemistry, even if the University of Richmond awards you credit for our Chem 141. So those are really two separate things, whether or not the university gives you credit for the course, and then whether or not the professional schools down the road will also accept the fact that you have AP credit for that course. So you do have to be particularly cautious when it comes to the chemistry and whether or not to use that particular credit. Okay. Let me go back to that just a second and say that generally with the AP for chemistry, what the schools like to see is that you're using credit as a stepping stone to more advanced coursework. So if you plan to do something like a chemistry major or a biochemistry major, where we know you'll be taking advanced courses like physical chemistry, it won't be a problem for the professional schools because you're automatically doing that advanced work. But if you were planning to be, say, a biology major or something like a non-science major, then it could be riskier using AP or IB credit for chemistry because a professional school might tell you 3 years from now that you fall short by, 1 semester of chemistry if they don't accept that AP or IB credit. All right, so those are some important points about thinking ahead to your first semester fall schedule. I realize I kind of went through that course schedule information kind of quickly, but I will be sending out an email tomorrow with some written guidelines that include the information that I just shared with you. And that email will go out to all incoming first-year students who indicated on their common application that they have an interest in pre-health. As there was an area on the common application where you can put like areas of interest or academic interest, and pre-health was one of them. So if you designated that, on the Common application, you'll automatically get the email. If you don't receive the email from me tomorrow because you didn't put that on your Common application, then please contact me so that I can add you to my list for pre-health, and also be sure to send this information to you. And you can find me, the easiest way to find me is if you go to the biology department webpage and look under the faculty there. You can click on my email address, or you could just simply go to prehealth.richmond.edu, which is our webpage for pre-health, and you can find my contact information there as well. Okay. All right, so I want to stop at this point and field any questions that you may have. I'm looking at the Q&A box here, trying to monitor that, see if there's anything that comes up. At present, I only see the question related to the AP credit, which I think we've covered. But again, feel free to post questions there. I'll give you just a second or so to put anything you may have there. And while you're thinking about that and doing that, I just want to reiterate that I'm here to help with this process. And I meet regularly with pre-health students starting their first semester, and with them the entire journey through to professional school. In some cases, that's even working with students who are alumni now, and maybe in other programs like post-baccalaureate programs, perhaps students in those programs, or it could be someone who's graduated and working a full-time job and getting some additional experience for professional school. So either way, I'm here to help and do my best to keep you on track in terms of the coursework and the extracurriculars to be in a good position a few years from now when you're ready, hopefully, to apply to professional schools. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me for that. Let's see, there's a question that just came in the Q&A box here. So it says, can we take a more advanced chemistry or biology instead of the intro class if AP credit is awarded, or should we still wait, or should we still take the intro course? I think that's really up to you in terms of what you're comfortable with. If you have the AP or IB credit already, then you've demonstrated proficiency in that course, and you may want to just jump right into the next level. I will tell you at Richmond, the next level after the general chemistry is organic chemistry, which is not a small course, right? It's organic chemistry is a pretty challenging, heavy content course. And so that might be a lot to think about for a first semester schedule. Another potential advantage to doing the Chem 141 at Richmond, even if you have the credit for it, is that the topics that are covered in that course may overlap pretty nicely with what you had in high school, but I doubt that the lab experience would be the same. My understanding is with our chemistry curriculum that our lab experience is much more extensive than what you would get in a typical advanced course in high school. So that's another reason you might want to do it. Plus, just to reinforce that material, which is going to be important for doing something like a professional school entrance exam later on. But I've known students to do that both ways. If they coming in know that they want to major in chemistry or biochemistry, I've had a few who have decided to jump right into organic chemistry starting out. But I would probably approach that with some degree of caution, just because it's your first semester of college and you want to have a chance to get adjusted to college academics, which for some students find is very different than high school academics and expectations for courses. I'll give it just another minute to see if there are any other questions that come up in the Q&A. Okay, so there's a question that just came in having to do with course load in the first semester and my recommendations for that. Well, first off, let me say that aside from the pre-health part, the university would recommend that you limit yourself to 4 units total. Again, there's a realization that this is going to be, starting off in a new environment and not being used to how college courses run and having maybe more unstructured free time too than you're used to, and lots of opportunities to get involved with social groups and student organizations. So there's just a lot that happens during that first semester transition to college. And I'm always a fan of being on the conservative side with that, because if you're on a pre-health path, kind of to bring that in now, you're always wanting to be careful to make sure your GPA can be as high as it can possibly be. And there's really no reason to go overboard, with your course load anyway in the first semester. You have plenty of time to take the pre-health courses to stay on track. You really only need to do the one course, for pre-health, like a one science course in that first semester. And so I would be in favor of just keeping that load as light as possible until you get adjusted. And if you feel like after the first semester you're ready to ramp it up for the spring, then you can get a little bit more rigorous that semester with your course selections. Okay. There's another question that came in. Do people commonly take biology and chemistry together in the first semester? If intended pre-health, but not intended as a bio or chem major. Okay. I would say that that's pretty uncommon for someone to take 2 sciences their first semester, unless they're planning to follow a science major. Again, there's plenty of time, to do the science coursework you'll need, even if you want to study abroad, right, for a semester. So there's no reason to jump right in to doing, 2 classes then. You also might want to think about the science courses in combination with math, because I know a lot of students are interested in taking math in their first year to sort of continue on with whatever they were doing in high school. And usually that means taking either first semester or second semester calculus, right? Those are fairly challenging courses too. So I would kind of elevate them, around the same level as a science course. Maybe when you bring the lab in for the science course is going to require a little bit more time, but they're still challenging nonetheless. So I would definitely be hesitant of doing something like 2 science courses with calculus in the first semester. I think that would probably be too much to take on. Or if you just did 1 science class and a calculus course, that's plenty in terms of load. Most students, I would say, would not start on the math even until the spring semester, though. Okay, another question about AP credit for calculus. Yeah, so calculus is one that I had on the list that it's okay to use the AP credit for. Most of the professional schools do not even require calculus. There are some majors that require 1 or 2 semesters of calculus. I mentioned the biochemistry and the chemistry major a little while ago. Both of them would require the 2 semesters of calculus. The biology requires 1 semester of calculus, but any student who's looking at applying to a professional school that requires a year of physics would automatically need to do the 2 semesters of calculus if they intend to take the physics courses at Richmond. So a good number of our students do end up taking through second semester calculus for that reason. But in terms of thinking downstream to professional schools, I haven't seen that it would be an issue for students to take or use their AP or IB credit for calculus courses. Okay, we still have a little bit of time if there's any additional questions anyone has that wants to post. I'll keep monitoring that. All right, well, thanks everyone again for your time and attention this evening. I look forward to, for those of you who are students on the meeting tonight, I hope to meet you all in the fall semester. If you don't receive an email from me tomorrow with written materials that goes back over some of what we talked about tonight, please reach out to me by email and I'll be sure that you get added to my list. But other than that, I will wish you all a good remainder of the summer coming up and your transition to college in August. Okay. Good night, everyone.